Things are picking up and fast on the Kevin Durant trade front on the heels of Shams Charania saying the Spurs and Durant had mutual interest and the Spurs will be actively looking for a star wing this offseason. Brian Wright has the perfect opportunity as a recent report has revealed Kevin Durant's trade value from the Phoenix Suns, and it is lower than what anyone anticipated. We got to break down the new report coming from Kelly Iko at The Athletic, what this means for the Spurs and a potential Kevin Durant trade or even other trades down the line. A bunch of great stuff coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest, and we're just going to dive straight into it. And I want to start with these Shams reports, these quotes that we've talked about before, just to remind you guys, to give you guys some more context as to why we're staying on this Kevin Durant train here, because for a while it was like, oh, Durant would be interesting, but again, Shams did say they're going to be actively looking to see, quote, is there a wing player we can bring in to take us over the top? That's what he said about San Antonio, and directly on Kevin Durant, he said, I think Kevin Durant is another guy. There was mutual interest at the deadline. The Spurs have number 2 and they have number 14. So again, this is not coming out of nowhere. We know the Spurs had interest in Durant at the deadline, and again, maybe if certain things went a different way with the Spurs, maybe Kevin Durant would have already been a Spur. Now, again, before we dive into the actual report from Kelly Iko, the Rockets beat reporter at The Athletic, I want to just dive into, where is it? There it is, Kevin Durant's contract, just to, again, give you guys some context. So, if a Kevin Durant move is to happen, it's 1 year, $54.7 million. So, it would very much just be kind of a 1 year rental. Would he sign here again after at a reduced rate? That would kind of be the dream, right? You get him for 1 year, 55, and then maybe he sticks around. I see Durant being one of these guys who ages very gracefully, maybe 2 more years at a reduced rate deal while still being an impact player. So that's kind of the hope. And that's just a bit of background before we dive into this actual thing, because the big reports recently, well, there's been multiple things coming out on Twitter. I want to start with this. Now, this comes from a day or two ago. I saw this from AP Hoops, but it's originally from Jake Fisher, who said the Phoenix Suns are expected to make Durant available again in the coming weeks after settling upon a new coach. So this came out, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. And like we're already seeing, okay, these Durant talks are picking back up again. The Suns are actively looking to move on from him. That is what it is. But then we get this report here just today that the Phoenix Suns have reportedly lowered their asking price for Kevin Durant per Kelly Iko. Now, Kelly, again, he's the Rockets beat reporter at The Athletic, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what he had to say on this front here. He said, Phoenix is aggressive in pursuit of A, trading Kevin Durant, and B, regaining full control of their draft capital, starting with the number 10 pick in next month's draft, team sources said. Now, he went on to say how the Rockets, of course, own that pick. If we take a look here, the number 10 overall pick is owned by the Rockets. So that's where he's getting this information from, the Rockets beat reporter saying, hey, the Suns want that Rockets pick back. It makes a lot of sense. However, Phoenix recouping their draft capital, it doesn't have to be the exact pick they traded away. There is a benefit to that, of course, but when you're looking at other teams that could be a suitor, look at the rest of these teams here, right? How many other teams in the lottery have been actively in Kevin Durant trade talks at around that same position? I mean, Houston definitely is one of them, but San Antonio absolutely is the other. And the reports of Phoenix lowering their trade ask for Kevin Durant on the heels of this, just trying to get off from him, trying to look towards the future, actually makes this a lot more interesting for San Antonio, because I know for a while we were talking about, look, if we're going to get Kevin Durant, we're going to have to give up some kind of big asset. And I know to make the money work, we'd probably have to get rid of someone like a Devin Vassell, and I hope never a guy like Jeremy Sochan. But regardless, I don't need to go through Kevin Durant's stats over and over and over with you guys, because we know what it is. But at this point, if Phoenix's asking price has come down significantly enough that the number 14 pick and salary matching can get us there, I'm honestly like, that's the kind of price where I would start to consider it. Because I think like a lot of you, like me a lot of the time, is just like, it would probably cost us too much. And again, it's 1 year of KD. You don't want to give up anything crazy for the future. But the number 14 pick in this draft, like, again, unless the Spurs have a guy that they're like, bona fide, going to be amazing for this team, you know, there's no real substitute for getting like a kind of win now player like Durant. And again, you could have discussions with him about maybe wanting to stick around longer term. And I know not all of you are on board with that, at least as on board with that as I am. Now, again, I don't love rentals, but if the price is right, I kind of never really minded to show your team that you're ready to go in, right? I mean, we're going from a team that didn't make the play-in potentially to a team whose roster you look at, you start De'Aaron Fox, probably Vassell would be gone, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Kevin Durant, maybe Jeremy Sochan and Victor Wembanyama. Like, that could be your starting five, which is just insane, right? With a very solid bench as well. Again, Julian Champagny making $3 million, having some great value there. You'll have still the number 2 pick Dylan Harper coming off the bench. You'll probably have to get rid of Devin Vassell, like I said. You still have Harrison Barnes as well, and I mean, maybe he'd be shipped out in a Kevin Durant deal, but I kind of want to keep Harrison Barnes around. Is that crazy? Am I crazy for wanting to do that? This dude can snipe it from 3. Barnes was so good for the San Antonio Spurs. I saw a lot of people talking about that recently, but again, like, win now moves for the San Antonio Spurs, it feels weird. It doesn't feel like something we've traditionally done. Gone out, get a 1-year deal, try and win right now. But it could serve as a transition point as well. And just to put that argument out there, right? To get these guys that kind of winning experience. Now, the problem is, if he does not want to stick around for a couple more years, and again, he's aging, he might retire very soon, or at least, you don't know how much his game is going to fall off in the next couple years. But the problem is then replacing Kevin Durant, right? And that's never an easy thing to do. And, putting together a bunch of superstars on the team, yeah, some super teams win, they work, but not that often when they bring them all together in free agency or big trades, right? Like, it can happen. Of course, Miami, they did win a bunch with, like, some of the best players in the world. But, like, a lot of the time, it doesn't work as well as you want it to. And that would be one of the big worries. However, I actually just look at Phoenix. I mean, again, Devin Booker, I don't know if that's a super team. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant. But the way the Spurs have it set up with De'Aaron Fox, that athletic point guard who's a very solid distributor, great slasher, Kevin Durant, the floor spacing wing who can take over any single game and be the best player in the world for a given night, any night, and Victor Wembanyama, who has a decent case to be, already looking to be on pace to be a Hall of Famer, for sure, first ballot. This guy, the best defensive player in the league, if you ask me, not to mention a guy who's going to go out there and score you 25 a night on offense. Those 3 guys fit so well with each other's play styles that I think it could very much unlock the Spurs. Durant is like super Harrison Barnes, right? Now that's maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a crazy comparison, but again, if the report is right, it all depends. I need to hear your guys' thoughts. How low would a Durant offer have to be for you as a Spurs fan to accept a trade? Is there any price? Because, like, again, just reminder, like, we can't just take on $55 million and just eat it, right? Like, we got to give up some kind of salary back. The talk will probably be Vassell, Keldon Johnson. I mean, that right there is, what is it for next year? $45 million, $44.5 million. Then you only have that $10 million gap to make up. So, you could work something out there, but actually, I think the Spurs might be able to eat that $10 million, because that would just be Chris Paul's contract, and then you bring in Dylan Harper. I think that works. I didn't put this in the trade machine, but, regardless, Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and number 14, I don't know if the Suns would be asking for more after that, because, again, reports were surfacing that they'd want multiple first-round picks and current talent. But again, if they've lowered their price, they're looking mostly to recoup their draft capital. To me, this just makes a lot of sense for the Spurs, provided it's not something absolutely crazy. Now, I do think I am slightly lowballing what the Suns would ask for Kevin Durant, but all I can do is work with what I'm told, and if it's lower than we thought, it might just be worth the Spurs' while if the Rockets don't want to pull that trigger to sneak in there. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, because to me, this is kind of interesting. Like, again, we're getting into that territory where I once thought that I don't think I would ever entertain a trade for Kevin Durant unless it was, like, really cheap. Now I'm starting to think that we're getting to that point where it's cheap enough. But maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, but most importantly, subscribe to the channel. We just passed 7,000. We got big things coming this summer, and I hope you stick along for the ride. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.